A very good evening to our viewers. Welcome to ELITETV and you're watching Open Debate in English. I'm your host, Chongtham Amrita, and today we're going to be discussing on the issue and the topic, the Kamjong issue. Why double standards? Disturbing news is emerging from Kamjong district, where refugees from Myanmar now outnumber the local residents. These refugees, they roam freely and instances of them confronting with the locals have increased. Additionally, the Assam Rifles is restricting the locals in their daily activities like foraging, while the Kuki refugees enjoy more freedom. And even in the number itself, the localites have been reduced to just about 100 villagers, and the refugees outnumber them in huge proportion. The number of the Kuki refugees is now recorded as 5,400 plus. The local villagers who typically store their food like essentials like paddy and firewood and even water to last a year, they report that the supplies may last only 3 months now because of this influx of the refugees in the Kamjong district. This situation can be similarized to the situation in Lebanon and the demographic shift in Lebanon that happened after the Palestinian refugee crisis. Before the Palestinian crisis, the Lebanon population and the Christian population was about 50%, and after the Palestinian refugee crisis and the influx of refugees from Palestine to Lebanon, the Muslim population increased at 69%, and the Christians, local, they fled Lebanon altogether, fearing their lives and because of the violence there in the Middle East. This is a very serious issue right now, and it needs to be tackled while it is just starting. This Kamjong situation, it may be critically important and it needs to be monitored to avoid any such similar situation to establish. And moreover, the reason that we bring up this topic today is because the treatment of the Indian governments against the Rohingya population refugees during the 2017 crisis is starkly different to how the Indian government is treating this refugee crisis that's facing in the Kamjong district. To discuss on this matter, our panelists are gathered here today through online media. Let us take a moment to welcome our panelists in today's session. Our first panelist for tonight is Soja Junior Luwang, Advocate Supreme Court of India. Welcome to Open Debate.
Thank you, Amrita. Thank you.
Our second panelist for tonight is Soja and Satyajeet, Bureau Chief, UNI. Welcome to Open Debate.
Thank you, Amrita.
And our third panelist for tonight is Soja NG Shantikumar, Professor of English, Hungkou Delin University, Taiwan. Welcome to Open Debate.
Thank you for having me.
I'll set the floor and start with Soja Junior. That during the Rohingya crisis in Myanmar in the 2016 and 17, there was lakhs and lakhs of Rohingyas who fled Myanmar because of the war, and they entered India. But during that time, the Indian government was starkly against any Rohingyas entering into the Indian country, and also they were very active in deporting them to Myanmar, back to Myanmar. But again, in this situation, this time we see a very different treatment against the influx of refugees in the Kamjong district, and it's a lot of number right now. And also we need to remember that the Indian government is not ratified and is not signatory to the United Nations Refugee Convention, that's 1951, and not the protocol itself. So on that note, what are your thoughts regarding this treatment of the Indian government, and why do you think that the Indian government adopts a double standard in treating against the Rohingya refugees and the refugees that are currently stationed at Kamjong?
Yeah, Amrita, I think there is some kind of misnomer in using the term refugee in this context.
Okay.
So refugee, as per Article 1 and Part 1 of the UN Convention, is somebody who has been persecuted in his or her country of origin, the political basis or religious religion affiliation basis, or some kind of a social or political group alignment, and who has been officially granted the refugee status by a sovereign country. which is not so in the case of Rohingyas, also in the case of the so-called illegal immigrants from Myanmar. Now, coming to Rohingya, you're right that they have not been granted refugee status. In fact, some kind of a crisis erupted somewhere in August this year when the Indian Minister, Mr. Hardip Singh, says so in his Twitter that around 40,000 Rohingyas right now in India, especially in Northeast, will be taken off from their slum-like situation or dwellings to a particular, say, part in Delhi, which will be basically accommodation in well-built flats or apartments with basic amenities. And then the next day, the government of India disowned his statement, and they said instead of accommodating them as refugees, they will be put in detention centers. Detention centers are basically illegal immigrants detention center, where they are kept for some time before processing, and then they are sent back to the country of origin. So, to your question, the Rohingyas, as they are today, and the so-called illegal immigrants in Northeast India, they remain, or they are of the same status, which is illegal immigrants. They will become refugees only when their applications are processed and approved by the government of India. That's the process which we adopt here, which is basically a case-to-case basis, because as you said rightly, we are not a signatory to the 1951 Convention and also this protocol of 1976. So we deal with such applications and refugee issues on a case-to-case basis. Now, you asked a very specific question whether there is a discrimination between the Rohingyas and the illegal immigrants in Northeast India. You see, I have not heard of any case where any Burmese illegal immigrant has been given refugee status in India or in Northeast India, especially those coming to Kamjong district. Their biometrics have been taken. Their biometrics have been taken because they don't qualify to get Aadhaar card, because biometrics will be registered in their names, and they will be excluded from the Aadhaar card regime. Even if they apply later on, then the biometrics will be identified and they will be rejected. That is the whole purpose. So let us wait for some time. I think the government of India will also act differently because there is a difference between what happened in 1989 and today, vis-a-vis the military junta in Myanmar. Because in 1989, around 3,000 Myanmaris were given shelter in India, because India wanted to be wanted to be in good terms with the West, and then was basically against the military junta at that point of time. Now that the military junta has thrown out and a number of pro-democracy activists out of the country, and India knows that Burma is a very important country, Myanmar is a very important country from a very strategic and economic point of view. So they will try to be not that friendly to those people who have come from Myanmar. I don't think any of them will be given refugee status. All that is happening is because ethnically many of them have a lot of similarities with a tribe in Mizoram. I mean, especially the Mizos. And of course, we also have a particular tribe in Manipur who have the ethnic similarity, since they all belong to the Jo tribe in common parlance. So let's wait for some time. As on today, we are accommodating them, but tomorrow they could be in detention centers for the purpose of throwing them out to their country of origin, which is Myanmar. Now, just to supplement what you said, India has a history of accommodating the refugees initially. You talk about Chakmas, who have been here in India for the last almost 47 years.
Right.
The Chakma refugee judgment of 1996 of the Supreme Court is a landmark judgment, where the Supreme Court says that you can't just throw out the Chakmas out of India because they have been here for 1946. For around 47 years, and there is a agreement called Indira Mujib Agreement of 1972, which basically says that the Bangladeshis who crossed to India after 25th March 1971 will be treated as Indians and will be given all the rights of an Indian. Then we also have the case of the Tibetans in 1956 when China started violating human rights of Tibetans. We welcome them with open arms, and now we have a lot of Tibetans in India. Although the dynamics are slowly changing, because India wants to be seen as somebody who can do business with China.
Right.
A lot of things, and then some people, leaders of the Tibetan movement, are aging, and they are losing relevance in the modern world. So if you see all these trends of how India deals with refugees, from a very liberal policy which was there 14 years before, 10 years before, it has come to a very strict regime as far as the non-Hindu immigrants are concerned, because of CAA in 2019, because the Citizens Amendment Act is basically seeks to allow the Hindus in these particular three countries, Bangladesh, Afghanistan and Pakistan, who are or who have been persecuted from a religious point of view, to come to India, and they can become Indian citizens.
Right.
But I don't see any of such a plus point vis-a-vis the Myanmar illegal immigrants who have come to India, especially to Mizoram and to Manipur. Manipuri in particular, the Kamjong district. I saw the report in the newspaper. So let's wait for some time. Ultimately, they have to be thrown out, and I believe that around 80,000 Myanmaris illegal immigrants are in India right now. But slowly and gradually, they have to be thrown out. But it will take time, just as it had taken time for the government to deal with the Rohingyas. Still, the Rohingyas are here in India, around 80,000 of them. They are reported to be sent to detention centers, and from detention centers they will be sent to their country of origin. So let's wait for some time before jumping the gun. But I'm very, very sure that the government of India will deal with it firmly, because it has already started border fencing, and it has stopped the free movement regime. And the next step would be to expedite or to throw out the illegal immigrants after due process of law to the extent possible. Another problem why the government of India is not acting that fast is because they go to the Supreme Court, they go to the High Courts, and there are judgments of the Supreme Court that if somebody has to be thrown out of the country, it has to be done after due process of law. And due process of law would mean a lot of paper processing. One, it has to be seen whether he actually deems to be, or he or she actually deserves to be treated as a refugee, and that depends on a number of criteria. One, of course, we have CAA, the religious background, which may not apply to the illegal immigrants from Myanmar. Second is whether he or she has been persecuted on the basis of religion, on the basis of nationality, on the basis of a specific political opinion, on the basis of his community affiliation, etc. Then from case to case, it has been the practice for the Indian government to examine such application from case to case basis. That is why the government of India is taking time, but I am very, very sure that they will ultimately do justice and ensure that all the immigrants are out of India, and that is why they started with the process of taking biometrics, which is basically one step to declaring them as illegal immigrants. So let's wait for some time before we jump to conclusions. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting and very good points there, Oja Junior. I'll get back to you again. And now moving on, I'll come to Oja Satyajeet, that even the state of Nagaland, even the state of Arunachal Pradesh, they are also bordering Myanmar, just like the Manipur is also bordering Myanmar. And we have heard from previous reports that the Mizoram is now welcoming the refugees because they identify them as their own clique, as their own clans, as their own kins. But we don't hear much of such issue in Nagaland or Arunachal Pradesh for that matter, even though there are some refugees who are residing in Nagaland, but we don't hear of them creating a ruckus with the local populace. So on that note, I'd like to ask you is this because the Naga people are very territorial of their land, of themselves, of their identity, or do you think it is because the state government is taking a very active role in order to make this issue under their control? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, Amrita, the Northeast is itself is a problem. The entire Northeast itself is a problem, and I think the problem started with the coming of the British. Because
Right.
if we go into history, after the 1947 partition, we had huge problem in the Northwest Frontier Province, and in the 1971 the war between India and Bangladesh, there was a huge influx of people from Bangladesh into Northeast India. So Northeast India has seen a major influx of people from Bangladesh, Nepal and Myanmar. I mean, and Northeast unfortunately is settled by a very mixed population, and the people are the population is very low. You must have seen that in Manipur we have over 34 tribes, and their population is in thousands. While the illegal immigrants, they are pouring in huge numbers. So it has changed the demography of the entire Northeast. I think the problem of refugees, the politics, the problem of illegal immigrants, they have a huge impact on the entire history of the Northeast. And if we go little north, if we see the problem in Arunachal, I think it is also not free from illegal immigrants. It is also not entirely free from the politics of which we are facing in Manipur, because we have seen the problems of Hajong and Chakmas in Arunachal Pradesh. Lots of Hajongs and Chakmas are settled in Arunachal Pradesh, and they have a very close border in Tirap, Changlang and Langding the districts with Myanmar, and in Papumpara and Changlang area in Arunachal, they have a huge Chakma and Hajong population. So in Arunachal also they are having their own internal problems. And if you see the politics in Arunachal during this election, the campaign was they were welcoming free movement regime also. I mean, just like Manipur also, though the problem is not as though it is not as problematic as in Manipur, they have also welcomed free movement regime. And the other good factor about Arunachal is they are all tribals. And they are all tribals, and they have special recognition, they have special status, and they are protected by the constitution. And the problem in Arunachal is they are now strongly voicing against illegal immigrants also. So I think they are also not entirely free from illegal immigrants. While coming down a little further, Assam is quite problematic. We have seen from Bangladesh. And coming to your specific question about Nagaland, Nagaland has also seen some a huge influx, especially from Bangladesh, because it has a long border with Assam, and the 1971 war had an impact in Assam, and it went further to Nagaland also. And about this, the problem with Kuki is it is not so much in Nagaland, even though because Kukis, especially the Thadongs, had been settled in Kukis for a very, very long time. Since after they started coming to Manipur, they had also started coming to Nagaland also. But the problem is their population is quite less. It is around 20,000 to 30,000. So they don't have any MLA, they don't have any they don't have the electoral power to influence people, the government, but they are well entrenched in the bureaucracy, well entrenched in the administrative setup, and very well settled. And they have a very peaceful coexistence with the Naga people also. And the people of Nagaland, as just like Arunachal Pradesh, they are also tribals. So they are well protected by the constitution. They are well because they are all scheduled tribes. And the Nagas, they are extremely concerned about their identity, and they are extremely concerned about their land. So they do not allow other people to settle. They don't allow other people to have extra political mileage in Nagaland, and so it has they have a very they have a defensive measure also, and they have inner land permit also. They do not allow other people to buy land, as I said earlier, and their terrain is quite difficult for other people also, and they are very protective about their land and history and culture. So they are protected by the people, they are protected by the constitution, they are protected by the terrain, and and most of all, their politicians are also protecting them, the people, the land. So I think they are well protected. Whereas in Manipur it is quite different, because the indigenous people, they are not well protected. For example, we Meiteis are not well protected by the constitution, because we belong to the general, even though later we became OBC. Whereas the illegal immigrants, the so-called illegal immigrants, which we are referring to, when they come to our land, they are given special status as scheduled tribe. So they get reservation, they get land, they get everything. So they have a special status, and so they have the ability to come into our politics. And so you must have seen that in the early electoral politics in Manipur, the number of Kuki MLAs was just 7. Now it has gradually increased to 10, and the number of villages have also increased from especially in Kampokpi and Churachampur districts also. So this is quite problematic in Manipur. I think each and every state in the entire Northeast, they have their own distinct and different political agenda, and they have all different problems also. But I think we should take the example from as you said, from Arunachal, Nagaland, Mizoram, and we should take the example of what their leaders are doing, of what their politicians are doing, their officials are doing, their students' body and civil societies are doing, their village chiefs are doing. And they should come forward and protect their land, so that we protect all our area, all our history, our terrain. I think I will refer to the next question.
Very good point, Soja Satyajeet, indeed, that we do need protection, the indigenous people need protection, and that is the reason a lot of the cries from the people have been regarding protection of the indigenous people indeed. So moving on with the program, I'll now move on to Shantikumar. I'd like to ask you regarding this. A few days ago, a local MLA, Sri Lesho Keshing, he penned a letter to the Chief Minister regarding this refugee influx in Kamjong, and he asked the Chief Minister to take urgent action regarding this, because there have been a lot of fights, a lot of conflict with the locals and the refugees. But still now it has been a few long days, and still now we don't hear any reports or any action that has been taken from the state government. So it feels almost as if the state government the refugees are more protected than the locals, because earlier panelists have provided their own opinions regarding that, but still remains to be seen, even if the biometrics have still been collected and all, the refugees are now straying away, coming out from the detention camps and into the locals' homes even. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a very critical situation right now in Kamjong, regarding the local population compared to those illegal refugees or immigrants, whatever we call.
Right.
Of course, this shouldn't happen. You know, if the porous border was fenced already a long time ago, and even now not finished. While in Myanmar, because of the conflict between junta and the rebel groups, China already fenced their Myanmar border. It's a long time. It's more than 2,200 kilometers long borderline, and most of the areas where this illegal, Myanmaris or those drug dealers or those bad guys could have entered easily to China, but they have already closed now fencing. But what is India doing so far? Only talking about this and the look is and the egg is, but they haven't done anything yet. So only talking boldly and proudly and loudly, but action-wise has been done. So regarding this Kamjong situation, this biometric, measurement taking, to identify the illegal these refugees. We say refugees. But what about those a few? Might be they might have done a few, but not all. But so far we have, I think so far, I know it's more than 80,000, illegal immigrants. I mean the refugees or whatever we call from Myanmar has spilled over to India, about more than 80,000. All right, and so how many have done this biometric? How many of them have done? This biometric measurement.
Right.
So it's a questionable, and the situation. What makes the situation worse is that the number of these refugees are so high that they can even bully the local indigenous people, and that is very very terrible situations. How would you feel if you are in your own home? Your neighbors start invading your family and ask you to get out or stealing your things. It would be very bad, right? So I think the same thing is happening right now in Kamjong. So all this happened because of the no action from the Indian government and also from the state government. And regarding Laising Kashio's, MLA Laising Kashio's Kashing's letter to the CM of Manipur, I think CM of Manipur should consider that letter, that matter very seriously, because otherwise these indigenous people could be, invaded, and there could be, there could be many changes, bad changes in the coming days or in the future. And so I think CM should consider that letter very seriously and take action quickly. But the question is here, as you just mentioned, so center seems to be, taking care of those illegal, these refugees better than the indigenous people. I think that could be right, in the sense, if the center says no, take care of them, provide them what they need, and let them settle, let them stay here in Manipur, I don't think Manipur government will do anything, because we have the yes government. So we have state government always say yes to the center. Whatever the center says, they will just simply obey and do that. But I think this should be changed. And we've been talking about this, to stand on their own feet and say what is right and what is wrong, and do what is right and what is wrong for the state. Not just obey, not just listen to the center and do whatever center asks them to do. So I think they should stand up bravely and then do what is good for the indigenous people, especially in the Kamjong area. I would keep this way.
Yes, very nicely put, Oja Shantikumar. Now moving on to our next round, I'll move on to Oja Junior, that both the Union Home Minister and the Governor of the state have also already stated in the past many times that these armed Kuki illegal infiltrators, they are the ones causing the trouble in Manipur. And they also said that once these people are driven out from Manipur, only then the peace will prevail in Manipur. But then again, on the ground, we see there is so many reports regarding this, and even recently regarding the Kamjong issue also, we have heard reports that a lot of paramilitary forces have drive inside into the Kamjong district, towards the border, and that they hear a lot of firing, a lot of bombs, and that the local people are the one fearing this, that they are the ones feeling unsafe regarding this. So we sense a big hypocrisy in this. So what are your thoughts on that, Oja Luwang?
Amrita, see, the blame, I think, partly goes to our legal system.
Okay.
One, because the law and order of a state, it belongs to the state government. It's a domain of the state government, because law and order of a state occurs in the state police under the Indian Constitution. Whereas issues like international relations, border management, deportation of people, or anything to do with the foreign country is within the domain of the central government. Those issues are in the central place. Now, the state government also is a little tight, because its role can be only to arrest or to detain those people whom it thinks are illegal immigrants. But the state government cannot go to the extent of judging them as refugees or foreigners unless and until the rigors of law are undergone. So the state government's hands are also tight, because it cannot deport people it cannot declare an alleged illegal immigrant as a foreigner, then push him out of the country. It doesn't have that functionality. There is a process which is prescribed under the Foreigners Act 1946.
Yes.
If somebody is suspected to be illegal immigrant or a foreigner, then a proper complaint should be made, or a suo motu cognizance will be taken, and then the Foreigners Tribunal will sit on the file and declare him as either a normal citizen of India or an actual foreigner or an illegal immigrant who has entered India without proper documentation, and then only he can be thrown out of the country.
Okay.
So it's entirely not within the hands of the state government, not only to detain a person, but also to declare him as a foreigner or an illegal immigrant and throw him out. The due process of law has to be undergone.
Okay.
So it cannot be fair also to blame the state government entirely. Of course, the state government could have done a lot of things which it might not have done. For that, yes, it can be blamed, but it is not some kind of a kangaroo court or kangaroo mechanism where you point out to a person and declare him as an illegal immigrant and throw him out. So we have to. That's why I've said in the first round we have to wait for some time and see whether everything works out, and then they ultimately thrown out. Just as it has happened in the case of Rohingyas, because Rohingyas, they say you are welcome. Instead of staying in proper and scattered, habitations, we have to move on to a particular area which is called detention center, and then we will be basically either thrown out to Bangladesh or Myanmar. So that's what the government of India's policy right now. So, and as to the alleged purported statement of the governor of Manipur and the Home Minister as to the illegal immigrants of the particular community being thrown out, of course, that possible action applies to all communities, whether it belongs to a person, it could be of Naga origin, or it could be of Kuki origin, or it could be of Meitei origin. That's something which the government has to do. Of course, it is suspected that a number of the Kuki community are not original Indian citizens, but we have to examine each and every application or each and every claim as to whether the claim is justified under law or not. But the problem would be this, that I'm not talking on community lines, but it's much easier to create a citizenship evidence. It could be Aadhaar card or it could be a voting card. It's much easier for illegal immigrant, actual illegal immigrant these days, to create such evidences supporting Indian citizenship. So all those have to be seen. If at all the document is found to be false, then adequate punishment will follow. I mean, he or she has to be thrown out. So this is why law itself is partly to be blamed, because we have a basic lacuna, I would say, in dealing with illegal immigrants, because the law and the judiciary have prescribed procedures for declaring a person is an illegal immigrant and then throwing him out. Well, I think I will just supplement to last question to one of the panelists. See, what is happening is that we can't take, when we say we mean the state of Manipur. The state of Manipur cannot absorb most of the illegal immigrants from Myanmar.
Of course.
Because it is belief, and it is belief for good reasons, that a number of them have crossed over to the northeast, especially to Mizoram and Manipur, all because of what is happening in Myanmar. The pro-democracy activities have been thrown out, and then they are scared of their life, so they have moved on to the northeast states, especially the two states which have named. Now come to the war situation of, say, now instead of 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 refugees coming, not illegal immigrants, I would say, coming to or crossing over to Manipur. If at all the government of India is adamant on keeping them for some time, because we want to be seen as a good nation, serving people in trouble or people in distress, what we can do is that we can ask the government of India that instead of keeping all these illegal immigrants within our jurisdiction pending their trial as to whether they are actually illegal immigrants or otherwise. Why don't we scatter them to other states also, so that other states also share the same burden? It did already happen in case of Chakmas, because when the Chakmas came to India, Assam was flooded with them. I think Satyajeet has highlighted the point. And then the governor of Assam had to write the governor of Manipur, to the government of India, that government of India, that we cannot have this many or this volume of Chakma refugees with us, because we can't afford them. And then they were ultimately, many of them were ultimately shifted to the Arunachal Pradesh state. In fact, between 1964 and 1969 is a documented history that around 3,000 people, the Chakma people, were shifted from Assam to say Arunachal Pradesh. So much so that even after shifting them to Arunachal Pradesh, the Arunachalis or the Arunachal government were not happy with this development. So much so that in 1980, the Arunachal Pradesh government basically framed a law banning the Chakmas from occupying government jobs or taking government jobs. So this was the kind of sensitivity involved. And then I think all Arunachal Pradesh women started a movement called Go Back Foreigners, on the lines of what happened in Assam and even in Manipur. Such was the sensitivity, but the whole issue was scrutinized in the context of the Indira-Mujib agreement in 1972. Mujib, I think, was the president of Bangladesh when the Bangladesh war was happening in 1971. And it was decided that whoever came to India from Bangladesh, then East Pakistan, before 25th March 1971, would be treated as Indian citizens, more or less. And then Chakmas fall within the bracket, and that's why they had to be absorbed within the Indian
citizenship. Right.
Indian state. So these are the constraints which the state government could be facing, and all that we have to ask both the central government and state government is to ensure that the biometrics of all people are taken. The citizenship rights creating evidences or documents are not issued to them. Obviously, as I said in the first round, that once the biometrics are taken and categorized as coming from Myanmar illegally without any proper documentation, then they will be denied Aadhaar card. Whether they could be causing claims or whatever, but the biometrics will be a good evidence against such documents. So then it's a larger issue of a major chunk of a particular community in Manipur being illegal immigrants that has been going on for some time. That possibly could create a number of legal complications, because if at all a person has stayed in India for say 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, then we have the Citizenship Act 1955, which has a number of provisions on bestowing citizenship who has stayed in India for a particular number of years. So even if they had originally come from a third country or a second country, those factors also have to be considered, whether they would be treated as naturalized citizens. But the first step should be to identify illegal immigrants across all communities.
Right.
Then only we can put them together, put them in detention centers, because detention centers are basically meant for keeping illegal immigrants. The declared illegal immigrants, after due processing by the Foreigners Tribunal under the Foreigners Act. Of course, we have to wait for some time. The government of Manipur has to act smart and then ensure that all the illegal immigrants from our neighboring country are denied citizenship rights and are dispersed to other states also, so that we don't absorb all the liabilities which come along. So this is what I can say.
Right. Yeah. Very nicely put. Very nicely put, Oja Junior. Yeah, indeed, the legal system, and also it has to come according to the due process of law, and that is indeed correct. And although while waiting for the due process of law to take place, it looks like the state of Manipur might have a very serious situation by that time. But then again, that remains to be seen. Now, moving on to the Satyajeet, that we know that the government of India, the central government, is very deeply involved in the geopolitics of Myanmar, and now the Myanmar civil war is really affecting the Indian external relationships with Myanmar even. And then it seems like the primary concern of the Indian government is just to protect the Indian investment and interests inside of Myanmar, like the Kaladan project, the Asian highway, the Trans-Asian highway, and access to the Southeast Asian markets even. But my question to you is, why don't the government of India try to achieve these goals through any government that may be ruling Myanmar, because it can also make a diplomatic relations with the military junta even now, not waiting for a democratic government to come back, because in that kind of a limbo there may be a lot of side effects, a lot of effects from the civil war that may pour over into from Myanmar into India. So do you think that this is the right time for the Indian government to relook into their diplomacy ties with regards to Myanmar?
Amrita, Myanmar is in good ties with China. It has a very good relation, diplomatic relation, military ties, strategic ties with China. China is giving financial support, military support, and it is not only giving financial support, but it is also officially training Myanmar armies in China, and it is giving access to Chinese sophisticated arms, even jet fighters they are providing to Myanmar. So Myanmar traditionally has a very good tie with China. But after the 2021 coup, there had been some problem in the China-Myanmar border, because there are some Chinese ethnic groups in the Myanmar border. So there is a slight tension in the Myanmar and Chinese border nowadays. But then those are minor issues, but normally they have a very good relation. And the other problem with Myanmar is they have a very good relation with Russia also. Russia is, for example, yesterday the two leaders from Russia, they had an interaction with Myanmar officials, and they were discussing about giving military aid and sophisticated arms to Myanmar. So Russia is providing nuclear arsenals to Myanmar. So India, in this aspect, what is the role of India, as you asked? India's role is quite important, because we have more than 1,640-kilometer border with Myanmar. So India's policy with Myanmar is also quite important. So if you look at India's policy, India has taken up a very slow paced project. Because if you see the trilateral project from Mori to Thailand, it started in around 2002, and India was looking after, the BRTF was looking after up to Kaliwa, I think Moniwa or Kaliwa, I have forgotten, up to, and after that, after 2009, India has almost stopped giving aid to Myanmar. And some of the bridges also India was supposed to construct, but from the Indian part, the process has been very slow, and the road from India till Mandalay is in a very pathetic condition. It is not even metal. It is only, it's quite muddy, and it is not motorable during the rainy season also.
Right.
So India's approach is quite different. Whereas China is infiltrating at every level, military level, economic level, at every level. And if you see the politics nowadays, we see that the Chin rebels, the Arakan rebels, and even some Rohingyas also, they are also creating problem in the Kaladan project, because Kaladan project is a mega project undertaken by India to resolve the problem, the distance problem, the geographical problem, to enhance the bilateral ties. But it is facing problems due to the Chin problem, the Rohingya, and the other internal factors in China. And India is trying to resolve those things. But the major factors are the Chin and Rohingya the problem. So India's role is also quite important. India has to somehow to be in good ties with the Chin and Arakan and the Rohingya people in the Kaladan project, because it is in the final stages nowadays. But the problem is China is undertaking another project which is more ambitious, and it almost diminishes the project India has undertaken. So India is competing with China because China is very proactive, and if you look at this, India's look its policy. If you see at the starting point at More is always trouble, because nowadays we call it an international trade center. It is, even the police is not able to function. The India government is not able to exhibit to the world that it is under control. So everybody is looking at Tamu area and More area, at Tamu and the Myanmar side, and More on the Indian side. And if you look at two measures trade centers in Myanmar, I think one must be Tonjang. One is Tonjang and the other is Tamu. Both have been controlled by Jomi. One is Tonjang is controlled by the Jaws, and Tamus is now controlled by the Chin rebels. So they have blocked the entire mission of India to reach up to Thailand. So I think India's approach is quite slow, and it is not as proactive as it is done by China. And the other issue is India's role in the internal matter of China is also quite confusing, because officially India's stand had been never clear, because during Ne Win's time, before the coming of Aung San Suu Kyi, India had a very good relation with with the Chinese military junta, and then after the coming of the democracy.
Do you mean the Myanmarese junta, the relationship between India and Myanmarese junta?
It was quite good.
Okay.
It was quite good. India has been supplying them arms. India had been giving, and they have been having exchanges of military trainings. They have been exchanging military officers. It was quite good with the military junta also. But after the coming of this Aung San Suu Kyi, that is after the coming of Aung San Suu Kyi, the relation also become better, and we saw a better relationship. But after the military coup, India's role had been criticized by many, because it's not clear, because at a particular time India is saying as India is trying to be in good rapport with those people in Yangon or Naypyidaw, and at the same time it is trying to be in close ties with Aung San Suu Kyi and the pro-democracy movement. So it's then also very complex, and it also not clear. It is quite ambiguous. So people are confused about India's stand also, and so what those people who are living in the region, for example, we who are living in the northeast, we want a very clear-cut policy from diplomatic approach, military approach from the government of India, so that the northeast is protected and the northeast is quite stable. And it is just like in China, because if you see in China, if there was some problem with some Chinese citizen, China was very harsh with Myanmar. Even in Thailand also, when some Myanmar citizens tried to enter Thailand, Thailand was very clear. Its policy were clear, very clear that they had to protect their citizens, and their citizens were important. Whereas, because in our area, in India's India's policy, diplomatic policy is also confusing. India has refugee policy is also not clear. Then is India's stand on illegal immigrants is also clear, because I said India's policy is quite ambiguous and it is not clear to people, and ambiguity leads to chaos, and this chaos has created problems for us people living in the northeast. So I think this is the time when the government of India takes up proactive approaches, that a good military approach, strategic approach, diplomatic, whatever approaches, so that we can have a very good friendly relation with Myanmar, and we can have very good ties, and we can have very good relation rather than Myanmar having good ties with China. But I think it is it's quite a difficult job, because the infiltration of China to Myanmar is almost 80 to 90%. Whatever they use in China, Chinese products, they use everything, because if you visit the entire Naypyidaw region, Yangon region, everything, even they have built up the entire they have built an entire new capital for Myanmar, Naypyidaw, such a beautiful capital. So I think India's approach is quite lethargic, and so I think we need a proactive government so that we can make the Act East policy practical and acceptable to all.
Very nicely said, Oja Satyajeet. Very good points. Now moving on to Shantikumar. As we all know that China is deeply involved in the geopolitics inside of Myanmar, as we have just heard from our earlier panelists as well. They are closely watching the activities and development on the Indo-Myanmar border. They are also having a firm hold on the ethnic rebels who are near the border as well. In such a situation, do you see Myanmar splitting into two, like a part that is more pro-China and a part that is more pro-India, or because there is also a friction between these eastern and the western parts of Myanmar itself? We have heard from very much earlier reports as well. Do you think there is a possibility for that?
Before I answer this question, I just like to go back a little bit about India's action and in how India deals with Myanmar and how Myanmar governments, like for example, like the pro-democracy government or military government, right, and how China deals with the Myanmar government. You know, actually, India needs to learn how to deal with any kind of government, irrespective of democracy or army rule or communist rule. It doesn't matter, because India cannot control the internal problems, the government policies or the change of governments in the country, Myanmar or in Nepal or Bangladesh. India cannot do anything about that. So, but I feel India is focused too much on democracy and trying to help only democracy and ready to work with democracy, democratic governments. But this is not a good move. I mean, when you look at China, how China deals with the two governments. First one was democracy. When democracy government was there in Myanmar, China deal very well, and also with junta government, with junta army rule, China also now knows how to deal with them. So right now, China is dealing with Myanmar, not only with the government but also with the rebel groups.
Right.
You know, you see here, because China's interest is not really militarization. China's interest is mostly based on business transaction. You know, they like to do business with other countries and develop together.
Economic reasons, purely.
Yeah. In economic field, in the economic area, you know, they like to, you know, invest their time, their money, their time, their energy, not like other countries, you know, who only think about democracy or communist or army rule. But China likes to deal with Myanmar. How China deals with Myanmar is, it doesn't matter if the government is army rule or democracy government, they know how to deal with. That's why China has a strong hold in Myanmar. It doesn't matter the democratic government or army government. China will help, and India will never catch up this. India has a divided government, because when the BJP rules, you know, Congress will try to stop something. When Congress rules, BJP or other parties will try. I mean, opposition party will try to stop something. You know, so there is a conflict. There is, division between the parties. But this kind of division, this kind of conflict is never found in Chinese Communist Party, because one party, one system.
Yes.
So whatever they like to do, they will go ahead. That's why when China takes 5 years to finish some project, or 1 year to finish some project, India will take some 10 years to finish a project. And this is what happened when India began this Kaladam project, right, long time ago, but it hasn't finished yet. But China has finished already many projects, and China also knows the rebel groups will disturb them in their projects, and it happened before, and they know how to deal with these rebel groups by helping weapon or by investing money, or, you know, by supporting them. And also they know how to deal with the government, you know, by providing weapon or by providing support or monetary or business doing together. So China is dealing very well with Myanmar, but India is not doing that, and India is very slow like a turtle. But again, it keep moving, that's good, but it's not really, So even one project India cannot finish, how India will catch up with China when China can do so much? So this is the problem. So coming back to the question, like if there will be conflict between China and India, right now it is hard to say, because government can make war and government can stop war. Even the conflict in Manipur happening now between two communities like Meitei and Kuki, this can be stopped. India government would like to stop, but they don't like to stop because they have different agendas, they have different things, motivation, why they don't stop. So India has different, inside secret, I don't know, conspiracy or whatever you call. India doesn't like to stop, doesn't like to finish this conflict. That's why. So Myanmar, if the conflict, between India and China can happen because of this Myanmar border, I don't think it's going to happen in the near future, because government is the one who can control and who can make war or who can stop war.
Right.
So I don't worry much about if there will be conflict between China and India because of this Myanmar border problems. But India and China may have some tussles, may have some conflicts regarding the other area border, especially in the north, like from the Ladakh to the Bhutan, this side, because China has already built many army, station, army bases and bunkers, and we have already we have found this already in the newspaper, in the mainland newspapers. So there might be conflict because of the border conflict between India and China. But I don't think in the near future, or I don't think China and India will have conflict because of Myanmar. So what India should do is, I think India should focus on her own policies. For example, like India needs to have a clear-cut laws and rules how to deal with this kind of in this kind of situation when spillover happens. Like any conflict may happen in Bangladesh it may happen, or it may happen in Nepal, it may happen in the neighboring country like Bhutan. So it can, the spillover of these illegal immigrants can happen from any of these countries. So India should have a clear-cut laws and regulations how to deal with this with the situation, because it can happen to any of these countries.
Right.
And the other one is how to solve this immigrants problems in Manipur, in the northeast. I think India needs to have a strong fencing system.
Right.
Bordering to Myanmar, because of the FMR. Before, there was so much of access between Myanmar and India, and what happened, all those immigrants and can enter to Manipur and settle here, and we have more than 5,400 villages, cookie villages, and illegal villages already established in Manipur because of the porous border line,
yes,
and also
right.
because of this the border security system is very weak. They cannot stop, they cannot do anything. And also this is very difficult because of the physical appearance. The appearance is very similar with the Manipuris and those Myanmaris. So it's very difficult to identify, and also our governments are not really effective in how to deal with these refugees or illegal immigrants on time.
Right.
And our governments are not active, not focused. They don't really do their responsibilities. They are busy with something else. We have many bad rumors. We have many rumors. They're doing something else. Our leaders are doing something else, not doing what they must do. So I think India also needs to focus on her own actions and the policies and the rules and the laws, and the Manipur government also needs to be proactive and do actions, especially like in Kamjong. The Laishio Kaixing wrote the letter, MLA Laishio Kaixing wrote the letter, but nothing has been done.
Right,
So
right.
this is not active. This should be, taken seriously. This should be considered a serious issue, because the local people will suffer otherwise.
Right,
And
indeed.
so
Very good points,
Manipur
Sajal.
government needs to be very
Yes.
proactive. Yeah.
Yes, very good point, sir. As we have come to the tail end of the last section of this program, I'd like to, because even though I would like to speak with our panelists for longer, we still have a time issue. So for this last round, I do ask the panelists, our panelists, to keep it a little bit short, but we would like to still discuss on this matter. So moving on to Ojan Junior, if there comes a case that the military junta still remains in power in Myanmar and that this refugee crisis still is not able to be solved. So at that point, do you think is it fair that the state of Manipur should only bear the burden of housing these refugees? At that point, do you think the government of India should make such arrangements in order for the other states also to share the refugees, just like we did in 1972, 1971-72 Bangladesh liberation, where a lot of Bangladeshis entered into India, and they have been situated very legally to other parts of the state as well, even from Assam to Maharashtra as well, in all over India. So there have been sharing of refugees for the 1972 liberation case. But do you think it should happen the same way in the, please make it short and succinct, and yeah, Oja Junior, take it away.
Yeah, I'll try to make it as succinct as possible.
Okay.
If the military junta succeeds in retaining its power in Myanmar, the way they've been attempting so far, there is a possibility of the situation getting deteriorated. An increasing number of say Myanmaris coming to India. As I said in the last round, there have been cases of, even you said right now, no single state should be burdened with an unreasonable number of refugees. That has happened with Bangladesh, because in 1971, around 10 million Bangladeshis came to India, and almost all of them have been habitated in India, of course across different states. I mean, West Bengal being the one who has borne the major brunt of it because of ethnic and the linguistic similarities. And same case with the Sakma refugee matter also, because as I said, between 1964 and 1969, a number of Sakma families were uprooted or were asked to go from Assam and then settle in Arunachal Pradesh, though there were a lot of local issues there. So it's possible for the state government to negotiate with the state government, with the central government, to take measure some of the refugees and spread them out in other states. Even in 1980, 85, I think, the governor of Assam had to write a letter to the central government, basically saying that take out as many Chakma refugees from our state and settle them in other states. So a similar exercise possibly can be done by the governor of Manipur or by the state government of say Manipur. Now I'll just come to the last point, which was covered by my last panelists about China, India, and Myanmar.
Okay.
Just two, three sentences. You see, China, India is caught up in between a devil and a deep sea, because India wants to do business with Myanmar because Myanmar means business, and secondly, it also wants to keep the Myanmarese government, whichever form of government is there, because it needs its cooperation in tackling the insurgency and the drug issues in the northeast. A lot of intelligence sharing and all that. So it has always been trying to keep the Myanmarese government in good humor because of these reasons, and of course, investment and all that. And a number of them projects have been done pro bono by the government of India for the government of Myanmar. But at the same time, being too friendly with the military junta with Myanmar also means that it will draw anger from the Western world, especially Europe and America, because Europe and America represent the democratic form of government in the world, and so is India. So India, being a democratic country, cannot be seen as too friendly with Myanmar, because it goes against the basic ethics of India as a country. So India has been doing that fine balance between its own values and the need to keep the Myanmarese government in good humor because of reasons which I have just explained. Of course, China will continue to have a dominant role in Myanmar, because they've been doing so. Second, China is coming up with some kind of a bipolar world concept, which it tries to destabilize America as a unipolar power in the world. It is developing its own groups. I mean, two countries I can name, North Korea and Myanmar. They survived because of India, of China only, and it will take time for the Indian government or the Indian state to have that kind of a you can say leverage with the Myanmarese government. So with this, I end my third talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good point, Sada Junior. Now moving on to the Satyajeet, I'd like to ask you regarding given the strategic position of Manipur as a border state and also in the geopolitics of India with respects to Myanmar and also in the other Southeast Asian countries, do you think at such a point the Chief Minister of Manipur has a very important role in apprising the central leadership regarding these situations in Manipur to the central leadership, and also the government of India also need to take into confidence the Chief Minister of this state? What are your thoughts on that?
Amrita, all border states are very important, and nowadays Manipur is extremely important because Myanmar is in war. The military and the militants died war. So Manipur is very important. So the government of India should listen to what the people of Manipur say, to what the Chief Minister of Manipur say. So I think Manipur is very important, and this is a time when people of Manipur should come up together and raise their voice so that New Delhi realizes the importance of Manipur. And if you look at the facilities available at Manipur, the government of Manipur can demand that, for example, at Tamu and More, we did a very strong office of the external affairs.
Right.
We did a very strong banking institute, because during the last several years there had been lots of tourists coming from Myanmar and Thailand via the land route. And the problem they faced is they don't have good banking facility. They don't have exchange facilities at More, and there is no facility at More. And More is also dominated by people who terrorizes the indigenous people. So I think security level also, administratively, the government of India, the government of Manipur, they should unite and take up several proactive activities at More so that it is secure and we can provide good facilities to all the visitors. So I think those are some of the positive steps that we can do. And the other aspect is some of the tourists which they tell us is that all the way from Imphal to More, they never found a good toilet facility or for refreshment, whatever it is. So we need to build our infrastructure also. Manipur is quite poor. Manipur has to reach out to the center so that we can develop Imphal to More, and we can have a very good good highway, free from militants, free from terrorists, free from illegal immigrants. Those are some of the factors, and the most important aspect is since Manipur is always in the center of violence. I mean, we need some organizations, because external affairs is something which has to be controlled by the government of India, which is in the jurisdiction of the government of India. Manipur can't do anything. Manipur can just voice the problem, can just voice their concern. So I think we need some very strong associations, just like Indo-Myanmar friendship organization or whatever it is, and we need some branches of those organizations in New Delhi. And on a regular basis, there should be the external affairs, financial, PMO, Home Ministry, all the important officials, and impress them the need of making the border secure, so that India and Manipur, they have a very good image, and people will started coming to Manipur, and Manipur can have normalcy. And when there is problem, no one will come. Even people of Manipur, they are going away from Manipur due to the crisis. So if we want people to come, if we want development, if we want our children to grow, then we need peace and development. If we don't have peace and development, we won't have economic development also. So I think the prerogative, the primary factor which we should focus is to provide security and peace. So I think once we have peace and security, then development will come to Manipur, and Manipur will be able to move with other states and move forward.
Indeed, a very good point, Oja Satyajeet. Thank you for saying that. Moving on to Oja Shantikumar, I'd like to remind again, and let's talk about the one aspect of the Look East policy that was renamed, and in a very much hyped manner, the BJP government renamed it as Act East policy. And whatever happened to that? Because it looks like it was better when it was only called Look East, and now when it is renamed as Act East policy, the whole policy failed. So please give your thoughts regarding this, and in context with the whole the issue that we have been discussing, and please keep it short since we have come to the end of the program.
Yes, I think that's you rightly put that way. I think because of the Act East policy, I think we become the scapegoat. You know, we become the sacrifice goat to, you know, because of these illegal immigrants coming to Manipur, and because of this conflict between the two communities. It's all, you know, it's all made by central government. This is their policy. This is their hidden agenda. This is their policy. It's all coming out. We all know why India central government likes to happen this. You know, one thing is they like to militarize in Manipur because, as I mentioned before, to defend this, you know, this northeast area from in case of China's invasion in the future. The other one is so in the name, and another one is India central government also likes to appease these rebel groups in Myanmar, you know, so that they can have business with them and they can do business smoothly. So actually we become the, you know, sacrifice, you know, scapegoat for India's benefits actually. But I think this is totally wrong, and this is very bad, because what about if Manipur people, if the government like to be aware, like to be aware, I mean, like to go back to the, you know, before 1949, you know. So I think India should change their policies, and their Act East policy is not really helping, especially in Manipur, and we are suffering because of the central government's policies. So I think we now, yes, we are facing the bitter. We are facing the bitter. We are facing the result, the consequences of India's foreign policy. I will keep this way.
Interesting points, very good points, Oja Shantikumar. Again, thank you once again. So in today's episode, we have discussed the topic, the Kamjong issue and white double standards. We have delved deep into the India's refugee policy and how India stands with regards to refugees with respect to geopolitics as a big factor, since it comes into play regarding refugees, and Manipur being a neighboring state and border state, and in context with the current crisis, how this impacts the situation and how the government really needs to take an active action regarding this. So I'd like to thank again our panelists for being here and giving your thoughts and opinions on this matter. I'd like to thank Oja Junior Luwang, Oja Satyajeet, and Oja Shantikumar once again for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd also like to thank our viewers for tuning in tonight. We will be back again next Monday with another exciting topic. Please leave your comments and feedback with us. Until then, have a good week.